The following program will make you want to grow things and experience new and wonderful dreams about your plants, garden, and garden design. Listener participation is always strongly advised. Good evening and welcome to Down the Garden Path with your hosts Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing, right here on Reality Radio 101. To get on board by telephone in the Toronto, GTA area of Southern Ontario, Canada, dial 905-725-1907. Toll free in North America, 1-866-905-7325. Worldwide, 1-866-656-5477. Send us an email right now. Our email address is instudio101@gmail.com. And now, right to your hosts of Down the Garden Path, Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing.
Thank you and welcome everyone to this episode of Down the Garden Path, where we discuss down-to-earth tips and advice for your plants, gardens, and landscapes. As landscape designers and gardeners, we think it is important and possible to have great gardens that are low maintenance, and we want to help you make it happen. I'm Joanne Shaw, landscape designer and owner of Down to Earth Landscape Design for the past 11 years. It is currently a design-only business here east of the GTA. With me is my co-host, Matthew Dressing. Hello, Matthew.
Hello, Joanne, and good evening, everyone. I am Matthew Dressing, horticulturist and landscape designer, and owner of Natural Affinity Designs. Natural Affinity is a landscape design and garden maintenance firm servicing Toronto and the Eastern GTA. Joanne and I enjoy doing Down the Garden Path each week, bringing you interesting, relevant, and helpful topics to help you achieve a great garden. We learn right along with you from each other, from our research, and from the guests that join us here on the show. And as always, we welcome your questions via social media, emails, or tonight phone calls.
That's right. That's right. And I want to thank everybody. Thank you also always for joining us on Down the Garden Path. And remember, you can always, we love that you listen live, but we want you to know that you can always check out past shows of the Down the Garden Path show on your favorite podcast app. While you were there, don't forget to subscribe to be notified of new content. And please, of course, like, share, and leave us a comment.
There we go.
Yes.
So check us out. There's lots of exciting things. Speaking about learning on the show, just following our intro, we enjoyed all Stephen Biggs last week and talking about his new books,
Yes,
Grow Lemons Where You Can't. I actually brought Gary a lemon today. And
Thank you very much.
Oh,
I can't wait to hopefully see it grow and I don't kill it.
We'll make sure it doesn't.
No, that window I think that you have is going to be perfect.
Great.
Exactly.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. And I took a cutting, so I'm all excited about growing it from a cutting. I think Stephen was talking about that and doing a bonsai. So tonight, though.
Yes, it is what is today? Today is the last Monday, aside from it being the day before I go on holidays.
Oh.
And so I'm a little flustered. And I warned you before we went live. I'm like, I'm not all here. And so then you gave me, and I can't tell which copy is which. But anyway.
This is the copy I gave you.
Is it?
Yes.
Are you sure?
That's
okay.
I'm sure.
Hello,
you have
everybody.
That part.
So this is the last, sadly, shockingly, the last Monday in August.
Can you believe it already?
I know. Which means for our regular listeners and our regular followers is that we we'll be talking about tonight is September in the garden.
September in the garden already. Jeez. And the last few nights have felt like September. It's been so cool. It's been 14 overnight where I live, and it's just yeah, nice to turn the air conditioner off, though. Open all the windows.
Yeah, by the way, the air is on in the studio here, but I don't know if the vent is open or closed.
It looks like it's closed. I closed it last week.
Okay.
Freezing.
Well, people have been opening back and forth. But yeah.
Okay.
Just to let you know.
All right. Thank you. So, our gardening season, just because summer is winding down, we want to reassure everyone that garden season is not over.
No.
There are still lots to do, a lot you can do. A lot of we're happy to answer those. I'm sure there's lots of questions you have for different areas of your garden. So today's an excellent show to talk about it.
Exactly. So if you want to join the conversation, question, comment, send us a picture, anything like that, you can write us here at instudio101@gmail.com. And you can always reach us anytime, Joanne at down2earth.ca and Matthew at naturalaffinitydesigns.ca. So,
excellent. Yes.
September in the garden.
I know.
That's right.
First, what's happening in the garden center?
Oh, yeah. We, believe it or not, Christmas has arrived. So we're sorting through that. But fall is strong. Fall's strong. Mums are here.
Mums.
Again,
pumpkins are there. Yeah.
Yeah, our pumpkins
not
are
pumpkins, but like the fall colors. Sorry.
But the fall colors for sure. Yeah, all the leaves and all the stems, the cut branching. So if you're doing your urns, you like to put the cut stems and different spikes and picks and things in your fall stuff. There's lots of cool things that we've got going on there. Lots of mums and fall plantables and nice containers, and bulbs are arriving anytime now, like literally in the next day or two.
Okay.
And we're just full swing fall. People are still buying lots of fresh nursery stock. We're receiving nice perennials that are still in fall and bloom and looking great.
Oh, perfect.
So lots still to go on. Just like you said, right?
Yes.
There's a whole season of gardening yet to even be started.
That's right. There really is. So, yeah, there's lots to do. And this tends to be a time where the garden's waking up again because things have gone like a little tired from that late August heat, the mid-August heat. And now that it's cooling again, things kind of perk up a bit.
Exactly. Yep. They cool off, start to new growth, some new flowers, maybe. Exactly.
So I don't know where we were last time. At my place, our back was being renovated. That's right. So that is done and complete and looking fabulous.
Yes.
So not a lot of garden there, although I did sneak in another little tiny spot underneath the privacy screen. I'm not sure what I'm going to put there yet, but we'll see. But yeah, so the area around my pool, the pool coping is on. It looks like a completely different backyard. So. And
you posted some pretty neat before and afters, and that was on Facebook?
Yes. Yeah. Matt posted those. He took those, and he was really good about the correct angles and stuff. So yeah, so he posted some really good ones, and I shared them on my Facebook page. So if you want to take a peek, check out Down to Earth, Down to Earth Landscape Design on Facebook.
Yes, and they're pretty neat. So you can see a landscape designer transform our own backyard.
Yeah, I mean, small, given that there wasn't a lot of time for anything really designerly because it was a small space, but we kept it simple. And I think that's a big thing right there is keeping it simple, keeping the colors consistent between the two, the coping and the paver, and make bit better use of the space. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and you should be. It looks fantastic. It looks really inviting for sure.
So we added some lighting, and it's going to look great. So we don't have it all set up yet, but back together again, but it will be soon. So and the front of my garden is, needing water. So I ended up having to do kind of break down. I know I think we're getting rain tomorrow, but I broke down and gave everything a really good deep watering. And so.
Very good. Very good. Things are looking fresh and exciting. And very good. Very good. I've been holding off my balcony. My potatoes are starting to look like they're going to wane and be ready to start to harvest. They're starting to turn some colors.
Okay.
So here's hoping there. My cannas and other...
did you do tomatoes this year?
I did, and then they kind of failed halfway through, so I stopped. And Gary has one called Matt's Sweet Cherry Tomato. So I might have to grow that one.
Yes, I think so. Are that some of the ones up the front?
Yes, it's one of the ones.
Oh my goodness, yeah, they're looking great, Gary.
Yeah, are they?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I don't know when I should pick them. Elaine does, but people I think are going to steal them. I got to get them out of there.
So I'm going to try that one.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And then there was another one a friend at work shared with me, Sun Gold.
Okay.
It's a hybrid, but it's one with one of the highest bricks count, so the sugar content. And it's bright orangey yellow, and it's just beautiful. It's like you're almost eating jelly beans.
Oh, really?
So it's really sweet. It's absolutely delicious.
No, is it heritage seeds? Is that, or what's the term? Heirloom.
Yeah.
Heirloom. Okay, so Dylan bought one heirloom tomato plant for me because normally we do grow cherries or grape tomatoes because I'm the only tomato eating person in the house. But we grew a regular one, and it's full of tomatoes that have been green up until like last week. And now they're all ripening at the same time as we were about to leave
just
on vacation.
As you leave, right?
Yeah, I was about to leave on vacation. So that's kind of interesting. But we've had a pretty good harvest. They even on kind of a whim they planted some Scotch bonnet peppers and the scorpion. There's one really like Marugans. Yeah. And that has produced like an amazing harvest. So I don't know what we're going to do with all those really, really hot peppers.
I was going to say, do you guys eat that many hot peppers?
No. So I don't think they thought that would harvest that many. So it was kind of interesting.
That's awesome.
So everything is doing A-okay. I'm happy my hydrangeas are all blooming and everybody's happy. So
nice. Yeah, very nice. Well, as we start off the show, Chris has written in. Chris says, I cannot believe this is the end of August, right? Help. Winter is around the corner. I enjoy gardening all year round, at least try to keep something growing in my home. Thank you for the year-round advice, Chris. Oh, and I am in Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Oh, wonderful, Chris. Thank you.
Winnipeg would be tough to grow.
Yeah, definitely. Your zone and your gardening year is a bit shorter. Gardening season's a bit shorter, so I'm sure you have to get more creative, right? And planting things. So we're going to talk about some of that because there are actually some stuff that we can plant.
That's right.
In September and harvest, kind of more cold hardy things.
Right.
So stay tuned, Chris.
Very good.
Yeah. So what do we want to start with? Do we want to start?
Shall we just run right into the veggie section?
Yeah, let's go right into that.
Sure. So we were just talking. We wanted to kind of highlight a couple things. Veggies, we tend to be harvesting in the fall, right? The fall harvest, that bountiful time of year. But there is still a few things that we can put in the ground and prepare for next year or even harvesting this year. So I think one of the ones that we like to talk about or we talk about often is garlic.
Right.
Right. So
yes.
Planting garlic. Did you plant any garlic this year or
not this year? I planted it last year. Actually, I meant to take pictures of my sad garlic because I don't know what I'm doing wrong. So yeah. So I'd like to learn how to do that better.
Okay. Yeah. So I did try to do some a couple of years ago. Our mutual friend Larry gave me some. And
yes. You got some of his.
Right.
How did that go?
They failed as well. And I think I put them in the wrong pot and didn't give them.
Because you were trying them on the balcony, though, which is a little risky.
Which is also risky, right? And I think that played into it as well. So I'm going to try it again. I'm going to rearrange kind of the layout of my pots for next year. And I think I'm going to try Russian red this year.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll have to come back to us, but there is someone that I work with. She has an English garlic grower, and I think I'd like to get them on the show.
Oh, perfect.
And he kind of collects them and has some really cool different French and English and different varieties. So that'd be fun. So garlic is time to come up, or it's coming up to be planting.
Right. So we can plant kind of September, even October, right? Or is it mostly September?
Yeah, usually you see it at the beginning of September to mid-September. You can even plant some of the varieties now and harvesting and collecting your varieties now as well.
Okay. Excellent. Larry has more, I would love some. So I think I'm going to move it out of where I have it. I think I'd like to try garlic again. I just think I need to pick a different spot.
Right.
So yeah. So that's good. So what tips? So either you can, you shouldn't necessarily plant what's at the grocery store, right? You should really go to the garden center and get the like, would it be called seed garlic or?
Yeah, you
Okay.
could call it seed garlic. Yeah, kind of like
Okay.
seed potatoes, but with garlic. But
Yeah.
you'll buy already ready cured bulbs that haven't been treated, that are ready to grow. You can
Right.
get them growing in the package, and it's time to break all those cloves apart from their basal plate and
Right.
set them out. And so they're all ready to go. Yeah, when you get things in the grocery store, sometimes they've been treated.
You're right.
Not that it's something that we are eating this treatment because we don't eat potatoes with them all sprouted or garlic sprouted. But yeah, it does slow it down, so it may not go, and you may just be planting something that can rot
Right.
out.
I'm sure there's going to be people that say they've done it, and I'm sure that's successful.
Oh, for sure.
And especially, I think make sure it's absolutely Ontario grown garlic. 90% of what they sell at the grocery store is the Chinese garlic.
Right.
And we should always be supporting. If you can't get it at your grocery store, ask for it. Local farmers markets, that type of thing. It's a world of difference, and you just know where it was grown.
That's right.
Definitely. So we get the cloves. And then we break them up into their little. What are those called?
The cloves. Yeah.
Okay,
So we
what's
get
the
garlic,
big one?
the garlic bulb.
Oh, okay, we get
Yeah.
the bulb and we separate it into the cloves.
Right.
And then how deep? How do you know all that on how to?
Yeah, so about 4 to 6 inches. Some
Okay.
varieties can be a little shallower or a little deeper, but
Okay.
on average about 4 to 6 inches. And you want about 6 to 8 inches apart. Some
Okay.
varieties can call for, sometimes they're smaller bulbs, so you can get anywhere from that range from 4 to 8 inches apart.
Okay.
I have seen people, and like Larry was telling me, I think he puts his 4 to 6 inches apart, and his are perfectly fine.
Yes.
But
Yes.
each clove ends up, if you're not sure about garlic, it kind of shrinks, and then it sends out more cloves around the basal plate, and you get a larger new bulb of garlic, basically, with a bunch of little cloves.
Right.
that
So
you
I
can
think that was
replant.
my issue. I didn't get when I pulled them up and dug them up. I got a lot of little of cloves, not a bulb.
Right, and they should be all like a
Yeah,
garlic bulb that you
yeah.
get in your
Yeah.
yeah.
So unless they were still in the ground and I didn't get them, but you would think, I don't know.
they should be all attached to the
Yeah,
greens that
yeah,
come up.
definitely.
Yeah.
So that was my little experiment. But that is good to know because I do want to try that again.
Yeah, yes.
You know, I think there's nothing, and it's cool that it has such a cool, like a neat season in that you plant it in September
Right.
and you harvest it in July.
Right. And
Right?
exactly. And that can be some of the issues too, is over that vernalization, that cold period in the ground, if it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't get an adequate cold period. We see that with tulip bulbs and hyacinths. Sometimes they don't fully form, or they get stunted, and
Right.
they come up a little funny too.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And garlic is one that you can plant because of the season. I find you can plant it in your flower garden. You know, because it
Yeah.
really doesn't stand out. So
No.
it's something like if you're thinking you don't have enough space, or you don't have a vegetable garden and you don't want to start one, but you have a sunny spot in your flower garden. Right now is everything's all big and grown. You can kind of tuck them
Right.
into a spot, right? And then when they grow up and you have the garlic scapes, they just kind of fit in with the plants. I found it wasn't as obvious as a tomato plant or
Yeah.
a pepper plant in your garden, or like the zucchini that absolutely takes over.
Yeah.
So garlic's pretty well behaved and pretty
I
inconspicuous.
was just gonna say, inconspicuous.
Yeah,
so it's
inconspicuous,
great
I
to
would
fill
say.
some holes.
Yeah, so isn't that exciting? So it would be lovely we had like to give away zucchini to all of our neighbors from one plant. So it'd be fun to, also have to give away garlic, right? Or although I don't know we would. I think we would use it all. But
You'd cure it and use it
that's
all
right.
winter
That's
long.
right. So so if you do grow garlic, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. So what else can we plant? So
Oh, wait, we
Oh,
got
we
a
got a
message.
question.
Yeah. So Connie's written in and she says, "Hi everyone, just wanted to say hello to you." Oh, thank you, Connie. Hello. Any plans to grow now in the approaching fall? You are talking garlic. Yes, absolutely garlic, and stay tuned because we're going to talk about a few other things that we can plant now that you can still harvest now, and a few things you can plant now and harvest in spring. Yeah.
So the next on my list was broad beans.
Okay.
So I didn't know that you could plant beans like this. And again, I don't grow
Yeah.
a lot of beans and
Yes,
peas, but
no.
broad beans, yeah. So you can plant them in the fall for an early spring harvest. So they're very cold hardy.
Okay.
They fix the nitrogen, so they'll enrich your soil. But you're going to plant them about now, about beginning to mid-August. You plant them, and they'll overwinter.
That's cheating for the September garden, but
It
okay.
is a little. Yeah, you can plant a
We
little.
have 3 days, everybody.
3 days,
3
go,
days. Go.
But they will overwinter. They'll start to sprout, and they'll overwinter.
Okay.
And they'll fix the nitrogen, which is good for your spring compost or for enriching your soil.
Okay.
And they'll provide an early spring harvest of broad beans that you can eat. So you'll harvest them. They'll actually start to fall off the plant
Okay.
under the weight of the beans, and that's when you can go out and start to pick them all off. Yeah, and then the plant makes it good. It's a brittle little plant. You take it up and you can throw it in your spring compost.
Oh, okay.
And your soil's already enriched organically.
So
and
it's not
fixed
like
for
the
next
like
plants.
the plant has to die down into the soil to enrich the soil. It's just whatever that the plant gives off,
Right.
it is enriching the soil.
Yeah, so it's fixing the nitrogen
Really?
in the soil. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think our vegetable garden could use that.
There you go. So I have some. We can plant some broad beans for when you
Yeah.
leave.
Okay. Excellent.
The day
Excellent.
before you leave.
Is that easy to do?
Yeah, they're pretty easy to do.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
They're pretty easy to plant.
Excellent. All right.
What else do we have? So this one was interesting to me too. Was a new one for me. The hardy onions.
Sounds
Hardy
like
onions, right? Because onion
onions.
sets.
Yes.
Right. The onion sets you tend to buy in the
Mhm.
spring in the garden centers.
Okay.
And the garlic is in the fall. So a lot of people will put out their multipliers or their different sets
Right.
of onions to grow through. But there are a few varieties. The wintering onions, Walla Walla, is an interesting name and an interesting hardy onion.
Okay. Now, is it like a green onion or like the big?
Yeah, it's like a big white cooking onion.
Oh,
Yeah,
excellent.
So like one of
Really?
the big
Okay.
ones.
So we can plant those now.
Right. Yeah. So plant them end of August, beginning
Okay.
of September. You can plant them a little early as well.
Connie, are you listening? We can plant onions. So plant them now
Right.
and then harvest in June.
So you're going to harvest mid-June next year.
Right.
And then as mid-June comes, you dig them up, make sure they're, as the scapes or the onions start to fall over, when
Right.
half of them are fallen over, just push the rest of them over and give it a week. And then you can dig them up and cure them in a sunny spot.
No. Back up. Say that
What?
again. Sorry. So
Yeah.
because we never talked about growing onions.
I guess we haven't,
need to-
yeah. So as onions
Okay.
ripen,
Yes.
they're
Under the ground when they ripen.
right. So their leaves.
Because again, people can't see your hands.
No, they can't. I'm gesturing like crazy over here. So as the leaves of the onions grow up, they start to slowly fall over.
Okay.
Saying that they're kind of ripening and they're being ready to go. So when half of them fall over, you don't wait for all of them to. You just
Okay.
push that one's over.
Okay.
Yep. And then you wait for it another week for it to kind of finish off what it's doing under the ground.
Okay.
And you can start popping them out of the ground.
All right.
and then-
And what if they don't fall over? It means they're not ready.
Right. If they're not
Okay.
falling over, they're still nice and stiff and erect. We still need some development time in the ground.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We grow those Egyptian walking onions. Have you heard about
Oh,
those?
no, what's Egyptian walking
Yeah.
onions?
So they're these little. So they're smaller,
Mhm.
and so when the stem grows up, it falls over,
Mhm.
and then it starts a new one.
Oh, that's neat. So then it just keeps walking.
Yeah. So it keeps walking.
Oh,
So then
cool.
we've tried to keep it contained. It was one of my clients actually. She had a huge section of her garden. She's like, my daughter gave me one of these, and now look, it's the whole garden. So she gave me a couple, and I kept them alive. I was so proud. And then we're keeping them in a small area because it's a small veggie garden, so we're actually like walking them back. Like, so this year was a little bit. We used them a lot this year, but I can see that I definitely need to, more fertilizer, more nitrogen in the garden this year.
And what do you use? Is it like a small onion? Or is
Yeah,
it
it's
like
a small. Yeah, it's not. It's bigger than a green onion, like the small, green onions you put in a salad. It's
Right.
a bit bigger than that, but not as big as, let's say, a garlic bulb.
Right.
But
Okay.
not a cooking onion.
But not a
still
big
a nice.
cooking onion.
Yeah, but it's still. They just taste so much different when they come out of your garden.
They do, don't they?
They really
They
do.
really,
Like you
really
can
do.
smell them, like picking them from the garden and walking to the house, like.
Just the sense
It's
of
just
the onions
oh my goodness,
just waiting to be
yes,
cooked.
Yeah. So hopefully, so look for those. They're kind of interesting. I think they are fun for kids because it is a neat process and they kind of look a little alien. Like they look cool.
Yeah.
So Egyptian walking onions.
I'm gonna definitely check those out for
Yeah,
my
yeah.
nephews and niece.
Yeah,
Very
so
cool.
that would be cool. So that is really interesting, though. So then I guess you could also grow those onions, like the cooking onions. So if you planted them now and harvest in June, but if you planted new ones in May, then you'd kind of have some
Right. You'd have
ready
a
in
secondary.
August kind of thing, August,
Right.
September.
Right. As
Yeah.
the later months
Yeah,
come, you
so
can
get
harvest
two
more
crops.
onions.
Perfect.
Right.
Perfect. That's good.
Speaking of multiple crops, the mescaline greens.
Yes.
Right, all of our cut and come again
Mm-hmm.
lettuces, right? We can plant those like every 3 weeks, going from basically March, depending on where you are. Maybe Chris is a little cold in March,
Yes.
being in Winnipeg, but all the way through basically every 3 weeks, all the way through September. And after about 2 to 3 weeks of harvesting, depending on which blend you have, you can cut them again, and they should pop up again with 2 or 3 more cuts,
Okay.
as long as there's enough fertilizer or energy still left there in the soil.
Okay. And with mescaline, with lettuce, is it better to rip the leaves? Is it better to cut them?
I've done both.
Okay.
And I haven't
Notice a difference?
I haven't noticed a difference, and maybe it's just my hort eye, and I'm just being too gentle. But yeah, I usually just go out and cut them. I like the flat edge because then you can see the new leaves kind of poking. Right.
Yeah.
It's not just like what's going on there.
Yeah.
I find it bruises too when I tend to rip those
okay.
leftover stems, and then they kind of they look a little unsightly because they bruised. But
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that would be easier because, it's like, did I tear too much? Did I tear too low? Like,
Yeah. The one thing with your mescaline greens is a lot of people tend to plant the seeds really, really close together. So you do want
they're tiny seeds, though.
Right.
What's the trick
exactly.
there?
So you want like 2 to 4 inches, depending on which one, just to kind of give you some space because they can crowd out each other.
Okay.
And they can kind of get all a little Fausty in there. There's no air circulation. They're too tight, and they just don't produce as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But they're super easy. You can do them in a container, 4 inches deep with some nice drainage. You can do them on your balcony or a condo, patio site all year round, basically.
Perfect.
Except for in the winter.
Yes.
But all growing season long, I should say.
Yes, definitely. I'd love to hear if anyone has got one of those little grow kits for growing inside. That'll be kind of a different show. So we actually did. My other son, Matthew, asked for one for his birthday. So he's growing basil and mint, a pepper plant, oddly, indoors under a grow light in that little kit from Best Buy. So So it'd be
Very
interesting. So it would be interesting to see to try more lettuce. So something that the spinach is coming along. So
Yeah. Get some microgreens going on inside.
Yeah,
for sure.
For sure. So that is another way, Chris. I know it's not growing outside, but that's a good way to grow inside. So what else? So we covered off vegetables. So it's cool that there is a lot. I mean, there are many common things like spinach. You can also grow, right? You can start spinach now too, and it'll turn beets as well. Aren't beets pretty cold hardy?
I believe so.
Yes.
But I've never grown them myself.
I know, me either. But those are two that I've heard of are more common. At quickly.
Yeah, I think you have to plant those, if I'm remembering correctly, a little earlier than September. Though.
Okay.
And that might be a thing.
All right.
Yeah, closer to, I think, the beginning of August.
Okay.
We're going to bring this show next August.
That's right. We'll talk about that next August. So anyway, if you're not into vegetables and you want to know what else you can do in your garden, then we have some more show for you.
We do indeed.
We do. So it's typically known, everybody thinks about planting their bulbs, right?
Yes. Exactly.
But it's still for me, it's a little early still. September is a little early.
Yeah. I would want to wait closer to the very end of September, bordering beginning of August, especially on what you like to plant. Tulips are infamous for being dug up and moved around, right?
By squirrels, yeah.
Yeah, and so they definitely benefit with the waiting till later. Just keep them in your fridge, somewhere cool. I've kept mine in my crisper and put them into a window box later and put them out, or planted them at Nana's, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Later on, keeping them in just a cool, dry garage. But you do want to wait for that cooler weather to settle in and get those guys thinking about more building their homes in the trees. So they're kind of distracted. They put everything away and they're kind of building. They're kind of on a different part of their journey for that season. So yeah, waiting till we get some cooler weather for them. But there's so many different bulbs you can be planting, right? We've got fritillarias, we've got daffodils, species tulips, alliums.
They're my
certainly.
favorite. Now, so I have a question. So can I be a listener question, Gary? Am I allowed? Do I need to call?
Yeah, can you leave and call back?
So I was ambitious last year, and I bought 3 bags of alliums. Not a cheap thing.
No.
And they never got in the ground. They've been in the garage. They're still in the garage.
I was going to say they're still in the garage.
They're still in the garage. Can I plant them?
Sure, I would. I would just see how firm they are.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's just one big storage device.
Yeah.
So as long as they haven't rotted, or they're not going soft, or
they certainly are kept dry and stuff. Like they weren't in any place moist or direct sun or anything like that. So
But I bet even if they're just slightly wrinkled and you planted them like this year's allium, there's probably a very good chance that they would pop back.
Ooh, isn't that cool, everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's all it is. It's just modified underground leaves that store food, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. I'll have to report back.
So yes, there's our bulb experiment for the next
our
summer.
2019-2020 bulb experiment. How's that? The great bulb experiment of 2020.
Great allium adventure.
So September. I think September is really a nice time to enjoy the garden as well. The fruits of your labor all summer. You can sit. Everything's blooming and if you've got a good fall blooming garden, then yes, everything's looking good.
Yes.
If you don't, then you have 2 landscape designers you need to call. And we can help you make that happen. Right?
That's it. Yeah,
Yes.
there's so many things happening in fall textures, fall colors.
Mhm.
There's a slew of plants we'll touch on that
Yeah.
are still just coming into their prime, beyond the mums and the kales.
That's
and
right.
The
That's right.
everyday fall annual stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So as far as the annuals and perennials, we talk about annuals. So mums is probably the most common known. It went right out of my head. What's the other one?
Asters.
Thank you.
Yep.
Asters. Oh my gosh.
You don't see many asters anymore.
Really?
I don't, at least.
So
I
the
don't
garden
see people.
center's not?
Even the garden centers, they tend to get the purpley blue one.
Yeah.
Very few white ones, and hopefully someone's got some small 4 inches somewhere just to tuck into some planters. But
Really?
yeah, mums have really started to dominate the mums and the kale. So
Interesting. Oh yes, the ornamental kale can be looking pretty funky
right, yeah,
in the
it's
garden too.
that nice texture and the colors in their eyes, and
And really nice containers. So definitely,
yeah,
if you want to change up, if your summer container is looking a little tired and you want to change it up, then that's a great combination. A purple fountain grass is always it's available all summer, but I don't know. For me, it just seems more of a fall plant. It just seems to really come into its own.
It really
Don't
does.
you think?
Yeah, it's really fall. Even like the city of Oshawa, they plant out their beds, and then suddenly there's 3-foot fountain grass everywhere.
Oh,
It's
yes.
like, you guys weren't there.
Yeah,
It's totally a fall
yeah,
thing.
for sure. Did you see? I was in downtown Newcastle today. Did you see the hydrangeas?
Oh no, I didn't see that.
Oh my goodness! I couldn't believe it. I had to take pictures of the.
Yeah, they're absolutely beautiful.
So I don't know the variety. I put that out on Instagram. Hopefully, someone will tell me what variety they are because they were gorgeous, more pointy. So yeah.
They look like a paniculata, but you're right.
Definitely paniculata, yes, but not like it wasn't limelight. It wasn't quickfire.
No, it didn't look like that. No. But
for
there's
sure.
so many beautiful
There
ones
are
right?
so many varieties, and that's the whole reason to plant a hydrangea in the spring is for what it does for you now.
Exactly.
Yeah. So so sometimes our salve, like some of the perennials, you can cut back. Or do some deadheading then you're going to by mid-September. If you do that now, then by September you're going to get some reblooming, right?
Exactly.
And September and October, which is also good for the bees and the butterflies.
Right, as they are starting to gather and get ready to go to sleep. Yep, you've got nice fresh pollen. So, yeah, definitely take a look at your old perennials. Take anything that's weeded and diseased. Remove all those leaves. You can, like you were saying, deadhead, get some new flushes growing and getting them to go for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. So that is a really good thing to do. I think of the salvias.
That's what's coming to mind too. Yeah.
Salvia, phlox. I'm trying
your
to think of what
your
echinacеas. Yeah, I wonder if you should. Mine are actually looking better than they have in a while. Usually they start to my echinacea.
Yeah.
My purple. They start to kind of really start already losing their beauty, their color and their beauty, and then but yet I like leaving them up for the birds. So then I feel like they seem to be bringing down the garden. But this year they've done well. I think I have water, even though they're pretty drought tolerant. I have watered more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when in doubt, I just say leave it. Just like you were saying with the burrs, right? No
Right.
one's out there cutting wild echinacea to the
True.
ground or bee
Yes.
bombs or the
Yep.
rudbeckias. These things are all left by nature so that all the
Mhm.
birds and the bees and animals have sources of food and pollen and things to take them through the winter.
That's
So
right.
that's part of the fall garden as well as that winter garden,
Mhm.
the dried everything. And we, like you were saying, like we take in, there's the dry corns and the dry hydrangeas and there's other things. I don't know if you were saying it today. I'm thinking of something else. But but
somebody else.
there's a lot of, I was thinking of the dried echinacea, but there's a lot of other interests and uses for these things as the garden naturally progresses.
Yeah, and I mean, as things die, quote unquote, die back, that's where insects sleep and spend their winter, and so there's lots of reasons to not do that. And I know it's just September in the garden, so we're not really talking winterizing yet, and not even in Winnipeg, right, Chris? We're not talking that far along, but definitely trying to change your mindset that the garden has to be all scrubbed and cleaned and everything cut back before the snow flies. So really, it's just, and there's so much beauty and so much winter interest out there. When you leave it up and you see what happens in the garden, I think the garden is still a living thing, even in cold temperatures.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but while it's still nice, I mean, definitely staying on top of the weeds. Crabgrass is a big one. Try to pull it out before it goes to seed, because those seeds are coming back next year. So it kind of gets those little fireworks, little seed heads. They lay flat. So if you can get as much of your crabgrass out, or at the very least cut off the seed heads, right?
Yeah, because the crabgrass is an annual. So
yes.
Yeah, the seed's definitely key, and
whatever
you can do to kind of clean them up for yourself, whatever makes you feel good.
Yes.
I had a guest.
And for your neighbors.
And for your neighbors. Your neighbors, they see it. They hate you for it.
Yeah.
I hate to say that, but that's the number one thing at fall is I've got crabgrass. What do I get rid of? And it's coming from my neighbors, I swear.
Yes.
It's like, well, maybe not, but
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, just those weed seeds, they will overwinter, but the plant itself will not.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the important thing to do. So I think dog strangling vine, has it started to open yet? That is another one to watch out for. If you can't pull it out, then at least cut it back and try to throw those seed pods. They look like they're pointy. They look like beans, but they've got that.
They open to the white fluff like a milkweed, because it's a part of the
milkweed. And
family.
What's the other one?
Milkweed and
yellow dandelion.
Dandelions.
Oh my gosh.
Okay,
but it's a different shape than a dandelion, but it's got that fluff. Well, those are millions of seeds in that, so way worse than dandelions. So really cut them off. If you've got them in your garden, there'd be like a nice bright green. Unfortunately, they look kind of nice, but
they do.
But don't put them in the composter. No. Don't put them in the compost bin or in the brown bags. Even actually, just throw them in the garbage.
Yeah, throw them straight out, because they are super virile. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So destroy them as best you can, for sure.
Yeah.
What other weeds do we really have around this time? The crabgrass and the dog strangling vine are probably the biggest ones at this point. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I've got one. I don't even know what it is. It's kind of flat, and it's actually growing in my interlock, but it just grows flat. Yeah.
Hosta-shaped leaves, like
no,
a plantain or a mullein?
No, tiny leaves. Teeny tiny leaves. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, so that's, getting on top of the weeds is a good thing, and it will help you enjoy the garden better.
The year to come.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And perennials, so aside from, keeping an eye, I think it's still early to dig them up and divide them. Don't you agree?
Yeah.
That's something we can definitely talk about in October.
Right.
But keep an eye and see, do a little walk or take some pictures. Now's a good time to remember, like, what is getting a little bit big, what's getting... that you might want, or where you have holes that you might want to split something and move it. Hostas, whether it's flowering perennials like salvias, like the phlox, that type of thing. My Roseanne geraniums, mine get massive, and I never knew that you could split them. But I had I had bought one extra for a client, and I ended up giving them to my neighbor. And then she now has two lovely ones. And I'm like, oh, you bought a second one? And she goes, no, I just split the first one. And I'm like, oh, I guess because it's such a big plant and such a small root ball.
Yeah.
But she really needs one more. So I for her little area. So I said, well, maybe in the fall I will split my Roseanne geranium. Perennial geranium, they're gigantic. Honestly.
Yeah, they're huge. They're big.
It's bigger than most of my shrubs. Bigger than my little, like, seriously, it is bigger. It is bigger than my little quick fires and my bobos.
It's eating their little hydrangeas.
Kind of. Yeah. I mean, I've left enough room for them, but they're encroaching on my little carpet roses. But yeah.
So definitely, leave your dividing and your digging and all that to, again, just maybe closer to October, depending on how the weather goes, especially where you are. We keep referring back to Chris here. Winnipeg might come a little earlier than it will here in Ontario, or it might further south for our U.S. listeners.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah. Definitely. And I can't believe we gotten this far in the show and no one has written in a question about their grass.
Now that you've said it, we'll get 3.
I know. Come on, everybody. Where's those lawn questions? Definitely. We've done a past show all on lawns. So that was last year, right? 2018. So if you subscribe to our podcast, then you can search for that. You did a solo show, I think, all on lawns.
Yeah, we did.
So definitely fall lawn care. But really, the lawns are still kind of waking up, I think. They're still been pretty dormant. I know half of mine has and half of mine hasn't woken up. Not needing a lot of fertilizer, just some deep watering and some patience. And with the cooler evening temperatures, don't you think they'll come right back?
Yeah, they'll start to pop back, especially now that we're going to start getting some more regular rain, it looks like. Yeah. And just like you said, watering deeply, also cutting high. And the lawns will pretty much come back together. If you're going to fertilize, if you've skipped or missed your summer, don't worry about it. Wait till your fall. Do it in like the second week of September.
Okay.
Do your fall thing. And yes, it is time to do nematodes if you're in Canada.
Yep, it's time to do nematodes. Well, you can do them in the U.S. too if you don't want to use the chemical. But we did that show a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
So please tune in to that episode of Down the Garden Path on all about nematodes. Mm-hmm. And we got some great feedback that was super, super helpful. So I'm glad. Corn gluten.
Yeah, corn gluten, closer to the end of September, beginning of October, depending on. But definitely putting that down has a cumulative effect that'll help you in the spring take care of the crabgrass and its early emergence and dandelions and all those other guys that are going to wake up first thing in spring before the grass.
Perfect. And I know we do get one of the common things, too, as people say they tried it once and it didn't work. So they don't want to try it again. But the thing about corn gluten is that it is accumulative, like you said. So doing it kind of 3 seasons in a row, would you say?
Yep.
Before you really see the results.
Yeah. And less in this, or no, more is better. If you can usually find that the rates are fairly big, like they'll cover like 1,000 square feet.
Right.
It is actually more effective at like 500 square feet. So just having the coverage.
Okay, meaning cover more than the bag says?
Cover less than the bag says.
Less than the bag says.
Right, yeah, cover less than the bag says. It tends to be fairly...
Okay, less is more. That's the term.
Is that I was trying to reverse it, yeah. Yeah, less is more. Less is more, yeah.
So less is better. So less corn gluten.
Or the same amount of corn gluten in the package you bought, but in a smaller footprint of square footage. Okay. So if it says 1,000 square feet, don't apply it to the 1,000 square feet. Put it to 500 square feet. Okay, I think and put it in there. That's more concise. Yeah. We're a little off tonight here down the garden path.
Oh my gosh!
Not sure what path we've gone down, but
yes, definitely. But anyway, yeah.
So that's pretty much lawns. But again, if you have questions, you can always write us here at instudio101 at gmail.com.
That's right. Or you can find us both at our, we'll do that little plug. So Joanne Shaw, downtoearth.ca with the number 2 as my website with all my social media links. So you can always drop me a message on Instagram or Facebook. Yes. And Matt?
Matthew at naturalafinitydesigns.ca.
Yes.
And like Joanne, links to past shows and all the social media there on the website as well.
Okay, perfect. And I don't know, we've been talking about it a little bit, but I'd love to hear if listeners are interested in that. So I have a Down to Earth landscape design page, and I post all our down the garden path stuff on that page. But we started to think about having our group, right? So that's a group.
Yeah,
Facebook group for Down the Garden Path. So we can share with you more about what we've done on the show. Or possibly our guests can contribute as well. So we're still kind of thinking about it and figure out how we're going to do it. But I'd love to know if that's something you guys are interested in. Because if you're not, then we won't do it. All right. Yeah. But I think of anything on Facebook, I get the most use out of my groups that I belong to. and whether it be business groups or the Ontario Gardeners Facebook group or the Garden Ontario Facebook group. Those are all some really great groups, and where I spend a lot of my time. So I think it'd be nice to have a little community on Down the Garden Path, right?
I agree, and we're looking forward to that. Hopefully that'll boom.
Yes, we will launch that. But we'd love to hear from you about if that's something, that would be helpful.
That's right.
Right?
And maybe our next listener who just wrote in, Gwen. She's a new listener from Fredericton, New Brunswick. Very awesome. Thanks for letting us know, Gwen. And very interesting radio show. And she asks, are you on every week? And we are on every week.
We are, Gwen. We do this every week. And this is, so if you didn't know, if you tuned in just now, the last Monday of the month, we talk about the following month in the garden. So tonight is the last Monday, for example, last Monday in August. So it's our September in the garden episode. The last Monday in July, we talked about August in the garden. So so we just cover all the things that you need to do or maybe don't do in the month.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, and then we usually have different shows on different topics also. And a reminder to everyone just tuning in also that all past shows are available as a podcast. So you can check us out on your favorite podcast app, Down the Garden Path.
That's right. That's right. So, plants for fall interest. What is one of your favorites?
I have to say, Japanese anemone has become one of my favorites. And I have to say, the bees also love it.
Yes. Yes.
So, next to the Roseanne geranium and my catmint, that bloom from beginning of the season till right till the end, and the bees and butterflies also love. But there's just something different and unique about my Japanese anemone and how it just fills out all these green leaves that kind of looks just like a green shrub, and then they send up all these little spikes of these beautiful. Like it's just a different shape, and they're much bigger flowers than I expected, and they're just lovely.
Yeah.
So I'd have to say Japanese anemone.
Yeah. A September charm. Anemone comes to mind.
Yes.
And I like you say, I love how the buds come up out of it. They're almost like little dainty fuzzy stems on September charm, at least.
Yes.
With little water droplet shaped buds that open into these beautiful big whites or pinks and different colors. So fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm really, and mine is not getting a ton of sun. Like it's east facing and it's definitely shaded by my limelight for afternoon sun. So it is really only getting morning sun and it is still super happy.
And she performs beautifully.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. So I'm really happy. That's my favorite. What about yours?
One of my favorites is probably toad lilies.
Which I've never planted, and I've honestly never even put in a design. I don't know why.
There's so many.
I know. I don't know why.
Yeah, no, I love it. Orchid-like foliage. It's very reminds me of like an orchid.
Very orchidy. If that's a word.
Yeah, orchidy. It is now. But alternating leaves is kind of like that Phalaenopsis, the ones that common moth orchid that you see in the grocery stores.
Yes.
Anywhere from like 1.5 to 3 feet tall and 24 to 30 inches wide. But in the fall, you get these arching stems of these little upturned star-like flowers, and they can be bright blue or mottled pink and purples and with whites.
And where do they belong in the garden?
They belong actually in the full to partial shade.
Really?
Right. So not super dry shade. They do like a little bit of moisture, kind of more like your still bees kind of environment. But they're great in a little partial shade. Yeah, hence the toad. Yeah. I'm sure the toad is something else at the end of the flower.
I think
like hydrangea, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah, definitely. So that's interesting. So it'll grow in full shade.
Yeah. So a nice,
but moist.
Yeah, kind of a evenly moist, loamy. Or composty, earthy mix.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and there's lots of different ones. Gilt edge is probably one of my favorite. So because it blooms so late into the season, it still rewards you with that architectural foliage, but it also has nice little yellow striping that goes around the edges and on the stem. So it does provide a little bit more color and interest that way too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting. And how about a fall shrub? Do you have a fall shrub?
Probably Caryopteris. I love the false blue spirea.
Okay.
So there you can get a gold leafed one or a silvery blue leafed one,
Mm-hmm.
but late August, early September and through September, you can get like the big blue clusters of flowers all over the shrub. Yeah, so it blooms for a shorter window.
Right.
Not as long as like a hydrangea, for
yes.
example.
Yeah, for sure.
But just a nice, soft, light texture. The bees enjoy it. The
Mhm.
other insects enjoy it. It adds like a true blue to the
Okay.
garden. So it is one of those ones, as you say, shrubs. It's kind of like the butterfly bush in a way that
Mhm.
it can have a little bit of dieback every year,
Okay.
but it just fills right back
Okay.
out like a dogwood. It just
So it tends to, yeah. So the one thing about butterfly bushes and the Caryopteris is and like Rose of Sharon, they kind of look like the dead sticks into June,
Right.
beginning of July. So you have to be super patient, and they should be at the back of the garden. I know I always forget about it. I have a little butterfly bush that's underneath, like it's kind of behind some Russian sage, and it has some my dwarf lilac on the other side of it. But because it always dies back so much, it really barely ever gets going, and it doesn't really get seen. So I should really kind of pop that guy out because it's coming back, but but not really blooming.
Right.
So I don't think it's being shedded out by the other plants, but I forget about it too.
Yeah.
Only when I step, it's because it's not growing. It's a good stepping place when I step over to my hedge, into my garden to do some weeding. I'm like, watch,
you're
don't
still
step on my
there.
butterfly bush. Don't. So, but I know some of the butterfly bushes can get quite big, and people love them.
Mm-hmm.
But I have done some reading that yes, they do attract butterflies, but really, there's really no food. Like, I don't know, is that true? That there's really no nutrition necessarily.
Mm-hmm. I haven't read that specifically about the
Okay.
butterfly bush, but you're definitely right. The pollen and the nectar resources, as much as it might draw them in for the color, different plants are definitely loaded differently
Right.
with the different resources.
Yes.
So yeah, that could be despite the enjoyment,
Yes.
it could be a low nectar.
Yeah.
nectar,
no plant. Yeah. So, but you know
provider.
what? We need to do a show on butterflies, don't we?
We haven't. Have we done a patrol on butterflies?
We
I don't think
only
we have.
about only with Kylie,
That's right.
right?
On the monarchs.
Yes, about
Definitely an
the
interesting
monarchs
show.
and stuff. So yeah, so that might be a good one.
And they're starting to get together and
They
do their
are.
thing. So.
They are. We actually I was babysitting a chrysalis. My mother-in-law
So much
rescued
fun.
two monarch caterpillars from the parking lot of their building, and she brought them in and fed them milkweed. And one had I don't even know all the terms, but I don't think it's hatched. But anyway, before they left, and they were able to see that, and then they were leaving on holidays, and so they brought the chrysalis to me, and it opened today. So so we released it today. So that was really cool.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So we had talked about planning on doing it, and then we chickened out, and then she just happened to find them. So so that's what happened. So
I've done that before, and it's
Yes.
super rewarding, isn't it?
super cool.
It's very, very cool.
Yeah, definitely cool. So that's a fun thing, but that's a whole other show, isn't it?
That is. We're going to have to watch that for another show.
That's right. That's right.
right.
So September, what else do we want to know or share with everyone about their September garden? Enjoy. I really want to tell people to enjoy it.
Yeah, I remember we work all season long for these
Yeah.
these plants to take care of them, but we have to remember to stop and take a second and step
Mhm.
back and enjoy what
Yeah,
they're doing.
cut some of your hydrangeas and bring
Yeah.
them in the house. Cut some of your roses, hosta leaves and peony leaves. They are lovely. You can cut some flowers and even though the peonies are long gone, the flowers, as long as they don't have powdery mildew, which also means you've been
Yes.
watering them too much. But the peony leaves are great.
Are beautiful,
And they look
arrangements.
lovely in arrangements. So definitely think about that. So now's the time to bring in some lavender if it's still blooming in your garden
Mhm.
and really enjoy it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. One thing to keep in mind, especially if you have lots of tropicals in your September garden, just as the nights start to dip in temperature, up here in the GTA, at least 16 degrees Celsius tends to be the beginning of tropical winter. So make sure that you're starting to prepare inside. It may end up, if we get that long, warm September, it may be more of an October thing.
Okay.
But just in case, be prepared to bring your tropicals inside, checking them for insects,
Okay.
trying to replicate that highlight window or that kind of position depending on who you've got.
So nighttime so I've got some dipladenia that I'm like in love with and I really want to keep.
Yeah.
They've done so well outside, and I have a client who has like 8 of them that she really wants to keep too.
Nice.
So 16 degrees outside during the day or nighttime temperature?
At nighttime. That's
nighttime.
where we're going to start to kind of reverse by starting to think about protecting them and popping them just inside the garage for the night, or just migrating them completely inside, depending on. And again, it's September. I know we've had some 14-degree nights,
right?
And usually you could get to 14 degrees in the fall, just because we get those weird little dips early in the morning.
But because the sun is so strong in the summer during the day, right? So the soil's warm.
Exactly. Okay. That keeps her kind of a little bit more warmer. So she's a little bit more of a gift.
So do we have time to talk about, so if we to bring them in mid-September, what do we do?
Yeah. You can cut them back.
Okay.
And you can cut them back. And
like brutal?
Yeah, you can be fairly brutal with them. You can take them back to, like, say, how big is yours?
It's probably maybe 3 feet, 2.5 to 3 feet.
So you could cut off about 2/3 of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Half to 2/3. Yeah. And then just treat it like another house plant. So high, bright, or direct or indirect light, higher light. And they basically will take a minute. They might take a little minute of shock. You might see some yellowing leaves. They might kind of like the hibiscus will do when you bring it in.
Okay.
Or like a
but
Benjamina.
Keep it like the lemon trees last week. Keep it in light. It doesn't need to go in the dark and the cool or anything like that.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, keep her bright. And she might just kind of regrow some, and she might just kind of stop. Again, just like Chris was saying with the lemons, right? Depends on really what your environment's going to give her, how warm it is, how often you're watering it, how bright the light is.
So you do want it to be warm.
Yeah. For this one, I would keep her warm and bright.
Okay. Okay, warm and bright, and then maybe start fertilizing in the spring.
Yeah, cut her off
late
around
winter kind of thing.
Right.
Fertilizing.
When you bring her in, maybe give her one more, but other than that, I would just stop.
I seriously have not fertilized mine at all, and it's been super happy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely want to do that again.
Yeah, we tend to overkill things with love, don't we?
We do. Excellent. Well, it's our September garden episode.
Where did it go?
I know. Time is flying. So we want to let everybody know next week is Labor Day, so we'll probably replay this show. So if you missed it, you can catch this show. We're going to do a rerun because both Matt and I will be away.
Yeah.
That's a good time to let Gary know that.
He loves that.
He loves it when we tell him that on the air. Or no, but he likes it better than when we tell you like Monday at 5.
That's correct. At least I can plan.
That's right. And then the September, what's the date for our September 9th? Oh, right. Our September 9th show. We are going to do a follow-up because all of Ontario is growing cannabis for the first time legally.
It is.
So we are going to do a follow-up show on cannabis.
Cannabis 2.
Cannabis 2 and talk a bit more about the harvest.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about, so we've kind of grown it. We'll touch on a few points that we talked about before.
Okay.
Definitely take a look at that one. We've got that up as one of our podcasts. So take a look at that. And this part 2 is going to be more, the aftercare, the harvesting, the curing, what that kind of looks like. And, maybe going inside again for more of the winter.
Right.
And kind of reiterate some of the indoor growing points.
Okay.
If you want to continue to grow it through the winter.
The winter. Okay.
Which
Perfect.
a lot of people do.
Yeah. Excellent.
So
that will be September 9th, everyone.
That's right. So, so Gwen, so next week we're not on, but check out our podcast, and then we will be on every Monday night at 7 p.m.
That's right.
Eastern Standard Time on Reality Radio 101.
That's right. That's right. So we want to thank everybody once again.
Yes. Thank you, Chris, Connie, and Gwen for writing in. Thank you, everyone who didn't write in but tuned in anyways.
That's right.
We always love doing the show for you. Thanks, Gary, for helping us produce.
Thanks for putting up with me, Matt, when I'm like head was
thank you for the lemon tree
else on my holidays. So thank you everyone once again for joining us down the garden path here on Reality Radio 101.
Thank you for listening to Down the Garden Path with your host Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing right here on Reality Radio 101.